I found out about my promotion and my replacement on the same day. Same hour, actually. If you've ever had a moment split cleanly in two, before and after, you'll understand the way the air changed in my lungs without the room changing at all. It was a Monday that wore a Friday's smile. My boss, Lauren, called me into the glass conference room with the fake fern and the two bright downlights. "Close the door," she said, already smiling, like the photo in the handbook. HR was there. Evan, the one who uses the word calibrate, like it's a hug. He had a manila folder and the company-branded pen that never writes on the first try. "First, congrats," Lauren said, palms flat on the table, as if she were pinning down good news before it could float away. "Effective next month, you'll step in as acting engineering manager. Title bump, comp bump, bigger scope." Evan slid a printed letter across like a dealer. I glanced at the numbers, felt the floor nudge upward under my shoes. After 5 years of doing the work without the badge, someone finally handed me the badge. There were careful words about trust and leadership and how I naturally take ownership. I heard them, the way you hear a song you've already memorized. They shook my hand, did the quick photo for the internal announcement, Lauren's arm barely touching my shoulder, and then sent me back to my desk with an email draft to approve. I sat down and stared at my name with the new words after it. It looked like it belonged to a different guy who slept better, drank less office coffee, and didn't keep mental inventories of other people's drop balls. At 3:12 p.m., a calendar ping I didn't recognize buzzed my laptop. Promotion rollout logistics. 15-minute. It wasn't for me. Organizer, Lauren. Attendee, Evan. Room, the tiny huddle space near the kitchen, the one with the broken motion sensor where the light goes out if you stop moving. I wouldn't have noticed it, except the invite defaulted to public. I watched those two dots, two people who had just signed my future, walk past my desk with their serious faces back on, the kind they wear when budgets are nouns and people are line items. I followed them a minute later because I needed cold water I didn't need. The huddle room's soundproofing is a lie. The vent above the door turns whispers into subtitles. They didn't see me. I stood at the end of the short hall by the printer, half shielded by a cardboard box of toner. I didn't plan any of this. I didn't have a plan at all. Lauren's voice first. "We'll announce him this week. He stabilizes the team through Q3, owns the migration, then we transition. Clean." Evan. "Agreed. We'll position it as a developmental rotation. No promises beyond 90. We'll start the coaching narrative day one. Light touch. Document small misses." "Right," Lauren said. Paper rustled. "Also about comp. He's at 118 now. The acting bump to 130 keeps him under the band. When we backfill with the referral, we can bring them in at 110. Call it market correction." Referral. The word bumped against my ribs. Evan tapped something. I could hear the pen. "I'll draft a growth plan template so it doesn't look targeted. Nudge him on cross-functional stakeholder alignment. Tone it with 'we believe in you' language. If he resists, that helps." Silence. The light in their room clicked off. Someone waved and it clicked back on. Lauren again, softer. "Look, he's good. But the board wants someone with Polish. You know what I mean." "I do," Evan said, "and legal will want us to be careful. We can't telegraph replacement. Build the paper trail weekly. I'll coach the skip level to keep feedback balanced. The referral starts shadowing in July." "July?" Lauren asked. "Quiet shadowing," he said. "We'll frame it as coverage. People read what we label it. I don't remember deciding to breathe. I must have. My throat felt like it had been lined with sand. I took a sip of water I hadn't filled yet and tasted nothing. There's a certain kind of clarity that comes when you realize the story you're in isn't the one you thought. It isn't loud. It isn't angry. It's a click, like a latch sliding, and then everything has a hinge. Lauren again. "Make sure he can't say we blindsided him. Touch base often, smile a lot. This is supposed to feel like development." "And the referral?" Evan asked. "Keep them warm," she said. "We do the swap before reviews so we don't have to explain ratings." They stood. Chairs scraped. I stepped back as quietly as a person can step backward with a full body. I took the long way around the kitchen so I wouldn't cross their door. On my way past the window that looks onto the parking deck, I caught my reflection. Shirt I thought fit. Fine suddenly looked a size too big. Tie slightly off. Mouth neutral in a way that made me look older than morning. Back at my desk, the email draft waited. Please join me in congratulating. It felt like reading my own obituary, written by someone who liked my work ethic. I accepted the edits, added a line thanking the team, deleted it, added it back without the adjective, and hit send. The internal Slack lit up with blue and confetti emojis, the corporate digital confetti that makes grown adults clap with punctuation. My team pinged me privately. Finally, well deserved, and I typed back the right words because I meant them yesterday. At 4:07 p.m., Lauren stopped by my desk with the smile she keeps for hallways. Proud of you, she said. Let's keep the good momentum. I almost asked her what momentum she meant, mine or theirs. I nodded instead. The room smelled like coffee and carpet cleaner. My seat felt slightly wrong, like someone had moved it half an inch. I left at 6:20 to miss traffic. I didn't miss. In the garage, I sat in my car with the engine off and watched my hands on the wheel. I thought about the team, about Maria, who eats anxiety like it's a side dish, about Theo, who thinks production databases are a playground, about Nina, who's smarter than all of us and pretends not to be. I thought about the migration plan on my desktop that I'd been building in late-night bursts, about the war room calendar I'd penciled, about the weekends I had quietly promised to the job, because that's how you keep the ship upright when other people think they're captains. On the drive home, I tried on different futures, the way you try on different jackets, the one where I confront them, the one where I resign dramatically, the one where I smile and drown. None of them fit. At a red light, I opened voice memos and recorded the date, the time, the room number, the words I heard, not symptoms, sentences. Then I turned the phone off and put it screen down in the cup holder. My apartment smelled like old books and detergent. I microwaved leftover pasta, ate it standing at the counter, and reread the letter with my new title. Acting. The word did too much work for 6 letters. I put the paper back in the envelope and slid it into the drawer with batteries and foreign coins, and the spare key to nothing. I didn't call anyone. I didn't tell my brother the funny version of the story, or my friend Sam, the angry one. I took a shower hot enough to quiet the noise, and stood there until the mirror blurred. After, I sat on the edge of the bed and stared at the blind slats, throwing stripes on the wall. Sleep came like a polite stranger. I let it in. In the morning, I ironed a shirt with more attention than I've given to some meetings. I arrived 15 minutes early and cleaned the whiteboard in the war room, wiping other people's half-drawn arrows into a blank I could own. At 8:59, I sent the migration timeline with dates and checkpoints, and 3 specific asks for cross-functional support. I CC'd the people who usually find out last and complain loudest. At 9:03, I ordered notebooks for the team, real ones, not swag, and printed small labels with names because people do better work when something has their name on it. At 9:30, Evan pinged me. Quick sync, 10 minutes. We met in the walkway by the window, his chosen neutral ground. He asked about feelings around the transition, and I gave him facts about deliverables. He nodded like he'd been handed a puppy, and I'd corrected him that it was a schedule. We'll do regular check-ins, he said, just to make sure you feel supported. I appreciate that, I said, and watched the way the word supported sat in his mouth like a marble. By noon, the Slack announcement had worked its way through the org. Lauren forwarded congratulations from her boss. Big things ahead, that boss wrote, the kind of sentence you can paste into any year. I replied with thanks, because manners are a kind of armor too. What I didn't do, I didn't mention the hallway, the vent, the light that needed waving. I didn't ask who the referral was or why July was already scheduled for a life that still had June in it. I did what I've always done. I started with the work, and while I worked, a second track began in my head, quiet and steady. Catalog, timestamp, keep your hands clean. Not revenge, not even defense. Just record the shape of things while people are still pretending they're making them up as they go. At 4:55, a new invite landed in my inbox. 30-day success, check-in. Casual. Organizer, Evan. Attendees, Evan, me. Optional, Lauren. Location, same huddle room, same broken sensor. I clicked accept, closed my laptop, and looked at the reflection again in the dark screen. Same face, different hinge. I walked out with the others at 5, laughing at a joke I didn't hear, held the elevator for a stranger, and stepped onto the sidewalk with my promotion in my pocket and the rest of the story, apparently, already written somewhere without me. I didn't know how it would end yet. I only knew this. I was going to read every line they tried to write for me, out loud, with dates. I didn't quit. That's what surprised me most. Not that they lied, not that I could be replaced, but that I didn't do what people in stories always do. Rage, resign, torch the building with an email. I came in the next morning with my badge, my coffee, and my silence. It was the kind of silence that fills a room even when no one notices it's there. Lauren noticed, though. They always do. She started small, compliments that felt like receipts. "You're doing great," she said one afternoon, leaning on my cubicle wall like a dentist who's about to deliver bad news. "I know this transition adds weight. Remember, leadership isn't about control. It's about trust." "Sure," I said. "Who should I trust first?" She laughed, but her eyes didn't. That week, the first cracks appeared. Meetings I'd led for years suddenly rotated ownership. Projects I'd pitched were reevaluated for scope alignment. My name vanished from a deck and reappeared under supporting role. I kept a list. Nothing dramatic, just notes. Date, time, phrase, witness. It looked like I was journaling. In a way, I was. Evan began dropping by for pulse checks. He'd sit across from me with his HR smile, the kind that never touches his pupils, and ask, "How are you feeling about the team dynamic?" I'd answer, "Measured." He'd nod, type something invisible into his laptop, and leave behind the faint scent of hand sanitizer and condescension. But that was just the beginning. The team didn't know. Why would they? I wasn't about to make them collateral in a quiet war. They still came to me for approvals, advice, jokes. I gave all three like usual. I wasn't their savior, I was their shield, and I wasn't done holding the line yet. By week 3, the performance review invites started. Developmental conversations, Evan's words. I'd seen the templates he mentioned in that huddle room. Each section had lines like area for growth, strategic communication, and suggested action, mentorship, tone calibration. I smiled when I read tone calibration. They'd written my obituary in corporate HR. The first review was with Lauren. The invite said 2 p.m., but she arrived late, eyes bright with the fake fatigue of someone who wants you to feel bad for their schedule. "How are we feeling, manager?" she asked. I said, "Structured." She frowned, already off script. "Look, Grant, this is all normal. Every new leader has adjustments. We just want to make sure you're set up to succeed." I looked at her pen poised over the printed form. "Is this feedback or documentation?" Her smile faltered. "It's guidance." "Then guide me," I said. She blinked, hesitated, and finally wrote something on her form that I couldn't see. I didn't ask. I didn't need to. After she left, I opened the audio app on my phone and spoke softly. March 17th, performance review. Phrase, we just want to make sure you're set up to succeed. Tone, documentation. I wasn't building evidence for court. I was building a mirror, one they'd eventually be forced to look into. That night, I didn't sleep much. I lay in the dark and listened to the hum of the fridge, the pulse in my neck, the words looping in my head. They'd decided I was temporary. That made me dangerous in a way they hadn't calculated yet. I started small. Every email, every Slack thread, every project note, all saved, time-stamped, organized in a private folder with backups. I scheduled one-on-ones with every team member and recorded summaries afterward. Who said what, who expressed what pressure, who had heard what rumor, and the rumors had started. Theo told me over lunch that he'd overheard Lauren mentioning a new structure in Q3. Maria said HR had asked her about my communication style. None of them meant harm. Gossip is just data without context. I gave them context. We're fine, I said. Focus on delivery. They nodded. They believed me. By Friday, I had the shape of the trap they were building. Small missteps logged as patterns. Random meetings reframed as coaching. Subtle edits to my project notes. We replaced with I when it came from Lauren. I replaced with we when it came from me. The paper trail wasn't just being built, it was curated. And I let them. Because every time they adjusted a line, I adjusted a copy. Every time they smiled in meetings, I smiled back and recorded timestamps after. That night, I stopped being the hero. I realized something. Heroes get blindsided. Professionals take notes. The next week, they gave me my first developmental milestone. It wasn't even clever. They claimed my communication with the product team was unclear. I pulled up a thread where Lauren herself had approved my message verbatim. Evan smiled like a waiter explaining policy. It's not about right or wrong, Grant. It's about perception. I nodded. Perception is data, too. He didn't like that. He shifted, eyes flicking to his notes, searching for something softer. We all want you to thrive. Maybe think about tone and visibility. Sure, I said. I'll work on being visible. He took it as compliance. It wasn't. That night, I made a copy of the recorded conversation from my phone, labeled it 3 Performance Cycle Evidence. Then I uploaded it to a secure drive, because I knew what was coming next, the shadow hire. They hadn't mentioned the name yet, but HR whispers travel faster than corporate VPNs. Someone from a partner firm had been contracted for consulting support. The same description Lauren used for me 3 years ago, before she promoted me. I almost laughed when I saw the new badge at reception. Same smile, same hunger. She introduced herself at lunch, polite, eager, curious. I'm supposed to shadow you for the transition, she said. Lauren said you'd show me around. Transition? The word slid across my nerves like a blade under paper. Of course, I said, standing. Let's start with the team. I smiled all day. I explained systems, access levels, sprint cycles. I even complimented her note-taking. I gave her everything they'd expect a mentor to give. Enough to make me look cooperative. Too much to make it feel safe. At 6:10 p.m., when the office was nearly empty, I sent Lauren and Evan a recap email. Great first day with the consultant. Walked her through ongoing projects. Let me know if any documentation or permissions need to be restricted for compliance. Compliance. That word always gets them twitching. Lauren replied 12 minutes later. Good initiative. Thanks, Grant. I closed my laptop, leaned back, and looked at the reflection in the window again. My own face looked calmer than I expected. I'd stopped hoping for fairness. I was working on inevitability, because people like Lauren and Evan build their careers on patterns. And patterns, once you see them, are just maps. I was done being a coordinate. I was going to be the legend on the map. They thought they were documenting my decline. They didn't know I'd already started documenting theirs. I didn't plan revenge. That's what makes this part different from the stories people post online. There was no aha moment, no montage of me plotting by candlelight. It started with one file named Notes, one quiet conversation, and a single sentence I wrote on the first page. If they're going to write fiction about me, I'll write nonfiction about them. The consultant, her name was Lily, settled in fast, too fast. Within a week, she had access to half the repositories and project folders. I was CC'd on her onboarding emails, all couched in that perfect HR tone. We're thrilled to have Lily supporting our leadership transition. Transition? That word again. Lauren began skipping my updates. She'd redirect my questions to Lily for exposure. Evan scheduled a mid-cycle performance sync and sent a calendar invite with no description. I accepted, of course. You don't flinch when you already know the script. The day before the meeting, I opened the file labeled Audio Record Hour 1 Promotion. I listened again. Every word was still there, their voices clear as a confession. We'll start the coaching narrative. Document small misses. It wasn't anger I felt. It was precision. Tuesday, 10 to 9 a.m. Conference room 4B. Evan began with that managerial hum of sympathy. Grant, we just want to check in. There have been some observations about communication gaps. Lauren nodded. Nothing serious. Just opportunities. I said nothing. I let them talk. They had no idea how much a man can learn from silence. Then I asked, are these observations formal? Evan hesitated. Not formal, yet. Yet, I repeated. Then I'll consider this an informal courtesy. Lauren smiled thinly. Exactly. A partnership. I recorded every word in memory, like a camera behind my eyes. When the meeting ended, I went straight to my desk, opened my private drive, and dropped in a new file. Review prep audio, Dabatkeks. Under it, one line. Pattern confirmed, intent sustained, action imminent. But that was the day something shifted. Lily was standing near the kitchen, whispering into her phone. I wasn't trying to eavesdrop, but when someone says your name, you stop walking. Yeah, Grant. He's nice, but honestly, he's not what they want long term. Lauren said the board wants someone more polished, more corporate-facing. I stood there, holding a mug I hadn't rinsed yet, and for the first time, I didn't feel anger. I felt distance, like I was already standing outside the building, watching them from the other side of the glass. That's when the idea stopped being theoretical. Over the next 2 weeks, I did what Lauren had asked. I owned the migration. Every detail, every approval chain, every financial record, with exact timestamps and author logs. I made sure all documentation was airtight and traceable, nothing they could twist. Then I built a private folder with admin privileges that mirrored the official one. When you've been in a system long enough, you know where the ghosts hide. I sent progress updates daily. No one reads those, but they get archived automatically. Each email was another brick in a wall they'd eventually run into face first. Lauren's tone grew sharper. Evan's meetings grew more corrective. Lily started shadowing leadership calls without me. By then, I'd already recorded 3 of those calls, legally on company devices for training purposes. Their words. At night, I'd sit at my kitchen table with my laptop, the glow of the screen painting the room blue, and I'd replay snippets. We'll phase them out after deliverables. Keep the feedback loop active so it looks developmental. The board wants optics. Optics, always optics. It wasn't vengeance anymore. It was documentation. The strike, when it came, was almost boring. Evan emailed me a performance improvement plan. Soft font, gentle phrasing, venom wrapped in silk. It accused me of communication inconsistencies and cross-functional misalignment. I replied within 15 minutes. Evan, thank you for your feedback. Before we finalize any PIP, I'd like to request an internal review with compliance. There's been On the following Monday, Clara stopped by my desk. We closed the review, she said simply. Appreciate your professionalism. I asked, what now? She smiled faintly. Now you do your job, and maybe update your resume, just in case. I nodded. Already did. She paused. One more thing, Grant. You handled this clean. Don't let them make you cynical. Just smarter. I already am, I said. That night, I deleted the recordings from my drive, but kept the habit. The quiet awareness that the truth is a weapon best held with steady hands. I sat on my balcony watching the office lights flicker across the river, and felt the kind of calm that comes only after you've buried something properly. They wanted polish. They got glass. And when I looked at my reflection in the window, It finally looked like someone I could trust. When it was over, it didn't feel like victory. It felt like silence, the kind that used to bother me but now sounded like oxygen. Lauren was gone. Evan was gone. The company moved on like it always does, feeding on itself and pretending nothing ever happened. I stayed for another month. I smiled in meetings, delivered on every deadline, trained whoever they assigned to help transition operations. No one said the word promotion again. It was strange how people looked at me differently, though, like I'd survived something contagious. Some avoided eye contact. Others nodded like they were proud of me but couldn't say why. HR called it a restructuring. The rumor mill filled in the blanks. I didn't correct any of it. Truth has a way of finding its own microphone. 2 weeks before I left, Clara, the compliance director, stopped me in the hallway. "You sure you want to go?" she asked. I said, "Yes. I just don't want to become what I had to fight." She nodded like she'd expected that. "Then you're doing the right thing." I handed in my resignation the next morning. No drama, no long email, just one line. "Thank you for the opportunity to grow, and for the lessons that came with it." Lauren would have liked that line if she still worked there. My last day was quiet. I cleared my desk in under an hour. One mug, one plant, one notebook. No goodbye speech, no cake. Just a few handshakes, a few keep-in touches that no one really means. As I rode down in the elevator, I thought about the first time I'd stepped into that building, 5 years earlier, full of energy and naive loyalty. Back then, I thought hard work was armor. Turns out, armor doesn't stop knives if they come from behind your back, but it can teach you how to build a better one. My new office sits higher, quieter, and smaller, but it's mine. I joined a smaller firm run by people who care more about results than optics. No glass walls, no calibration meetings, no HR smiles, just work. I wake up early now, no stomach knots, no late-night notes whispering in my head. Sometimes I drive past the old building on my way to a client site. The logo's still there, polished and meaningless. The same kind of polish Lauren said I lacked. I laugh every time I see it. One evening, months later, I ran into Lily at a cafe near downtown. She froze when she saw me. Then she smiled, cautious and small. "Grant," she said. "Wow, it's been a while." "Yeah," I said, stirring my coffee. "How's consulting?" She hesitated. "Between projects," which was code for unemployed. We stood there in the pause. She looked thinner, tired. Her eyes darted like someone waiting for forgiveness that wasn't coming. "I heard what happened," she said finally. "Lauren—" "I know," I interrupted softly. "We all choose our mirrors." She bit her lip. "You always seemed like you knew something the rest of us didn't." I smiled. Just how stories end. And then I left her there standing in the doorway, still looking for a plot twist that wasn't coming. Now when I tell this story, and I rarely do, people ask if I ever regret leaving. I don't. What I regret is staying long enough to think loyalty would protect me. Because in corporate life, loyalty is currency only until someone decides to print more of it. I've learned since then that peace isn't the absence of conflict. It's the absence of pretending. On my desk at the new office, there's a small wooden plaque Clara mailed me months after I left. No note, just 3 words carved into it. "Keep your records." It makes me laugh every time I see it, not because of what it means, but because of how true it still is. Sometimes I catch my reflection in the monitor when I'm working late. No tension in the shoulders, no second-guessing every word I write. Just me, doing the job, not performing it. I take a breath, stretch my hands, and think. They built the trap, I built the proof, and in the end, they fired themselves. Now I drink my coffee slower. I answer only the emails that matter. I never explain twice. And sometimes when a junior manager stops by my desk asking for advice, I tell them this. Don't chase fairness, document it. They always laugh, thinking it's a joke, It's not. I learned that calm isn't weakness, it's precision, that quiet men aren't harmless. They're just finished negotiating, and that sometimes the cleanest revenge is the life you build after the noise stops. The company that tried to replace me, it's still there. Same name, different people. They'll repeat the pattern with someone else, maybe better at playing along. But me? I'm done playing. I still have the first recording. Never shared it, never posted it. I keep it in a folder called Proof of Life, because that's what it really was. Proof that I didn't imagine it. Proof that I survived it. Proof that calm isn't surrender. It's evolution. And if I could tell Lauren one last thing, it'd be this. You were right about one thing. I did need more polish. You just didn't realize I learned to shine without you.